Over the coming decades, the number of people 85 and over in the U.S. is expected to more than triple.
I-26.
The hope is they'll get good care and lead an active, secure, and engaged life.
14.
The odds are that nearly half of the people in this room will spend some time in a nursing home.
069.
And as the business of elderly care grows, making the right choice has never been harder.
They're putting profits ahead of people, and they're increasing those profits on the backs of the nursing home residents who are being exploited, neglected, and abused. It is epidemic.
This week, Faultlines investigates the business of elderly care. This facility in Oklahoma City provides the type of care most people would hope for in their golden years. It has very high standards and above average staffing levels. But for the majority in the U.S. who rely on government reimbursements for elderly care, like Medicaid, the reality can be quite different.
You'd pull the light and nobody would come for an hour, so pretty early, we were suspicious of the place.
My dad would call frantic every single morning because feces and urine were running off the bed.
Continuing down the hallway, I see no staff helping people. I hear people crying out for help, nobody responding to them.
Abuses are hidden, sometimes coming to light only when suspicious family members plant hidden cameras.
We just couldn't believe it. It was just, you didn't even want to look at it again. It was so terrible.
What was going through your mind when you saw that?
Well, I was thinking about maybe all the other times she'd been abused, and we just happened to get that one on camera.
Faultlines has been contacted by a lawyer in South Carolina who says he's bringing a case against a corporation that manages care homes. Happened in Augusta, Georgia. The victim's name is Pat Manning. We're meeting with his wife today, Nora Manning. We want to investigate what happened. Nora Manning is suing Amara Healthcare and Rehabs corporations and its other entities for what she claims was neglect.
Oh, I got a lot of pictures in there. This is Pat.
Wow.
There's Mr. Manning.
Pat Manning suffered a stroke in 2011 at the age of 60 that limited his mobility.
He was a good man. I got so many. Aha!
According to his
Yowza.
wife, he walked into Amara nursing home for rehabilitation that was predicted to last only 6 weeks.
Pat looked there. He looks so healthy. He's my sweetie.
But Nora says that Pat wasn't getting the care that he needed. She alleges he was so neglected he developed bed sores, that he was denied physical therapy and lost all mobility. He was dehydrated and malnourished.
He smelled. His hair was dirty. His butt was dirty.
Told by doctors Pat was dying, Nora took him home. He passed away a few weeks later of sepsis due to infection.
Pat died for no reason,
Mm-hmm.
People gotta know what these nursing homes consist of. They don't care about it. They're there for a paycheck.
Nora's lawyer shot video footage of Pat's condition before he died. She hasn't been able to bring herself to watch it.
And you've never watched this video?
I never watched the video. Never.
Do you want
no.
to watch the video?
I'm scared to see it. I can't. Because it'd be like putting me back, wanting to get him bring back to me.
This video is critical evidence in Nora's case.
You my baby? Huh?
The images are disturbing.
Nora is trying to take care of Pat. He's covered in sores.
The sores on his foot are down to the point that the bone is actually sticking out of it.
It's getting worse. Oh God, help me. He said he's a baby. Give him something else.
The man in this video is completely unrecognizable from the photos we saw at Nora's house. The Medicare Review Board gave Amara only 1 star, defined as much below average in an overall rating. But despite that low rating, there have been no fines or penalties levied in at least the past 3 years. And across the U.S., there's little consistency to how facilities get fined for giving bad care.
People have asked me all the time, why doesn't the state close down bad nursing homes? Well, if that was the case, okay, then there really be no nursing homes open, okay? Because there are gonna be times in which nursing homes get to the point where it's like a yo-yo effect in nursing homes. Sometimes there's good care, and then it goes down, there's really bad care, and it goes back up good, yo-yo up and down.
Brian Lee used to be an independent watchdog for state and federal regulation of nursing homes. Now, he's a whistleblower.
I saw stuff that blew my mind. I've been in nursing homes where the door opens up and I'm blasted by the smell of urine and feces. I've seen residents wheeled to showers completely nude in the hallway, exposed, bed sheets off of them, people walking around naked, no dignity whatsoever. I've seen warehousing of elderly people in nursing homes. This reimbursement-based system that they're in, as much as 80% of their funding comes from reimbursements by taxpayers. So they get paid regardless of the quality of care, whether it's good care or it's bad care.
If nursing homes like Amara rarely have to answer to the quality of their care, what can be done? We've called to request some interviews here, and they all get turned down. So we've decided we're going to knock on their door and see if we can find out what happened with Pat Manning. Who's in charge right now?
Like what?
Is there a manager here?
Who y'all from?
We're from a show called Faultlines.
Hey guys.
Hey.
I've been instructed to ask you guys to please leave.
Oh, we'd like to talk to Mr. Williams first.
He's the one that asked me to ask you if you guys could
Yeah,
leave.
do you remember Pat Manning as a patient?
I can't answer any questions.
Can you go ask Mr. Williams to come back and
I
answer?
can't. He will not talk to you. He's been instructed not to answer any questions, and I've just been asked to ask you guys if you could leave.
Let me ask you this. It says premier performance oriented, right? You're a 1 out of 5 stars on state inspection. What's happening at this nursing home?
I cannot answer any questions. I'm sorry. I've been asked to ask you guys to leave, and that's all I can. Sorry. I mean, that's all I can say.
All right.
You guys have a good day.
In your mind, was it the stroke and the after effects of the stroke that killed Mr. Manning?
No. Nope.
What killed him?
Nursing home?
So, just to be clear, you feel that their neglect
Bad neglect, sir.
led directly to his death?
Yes. With all of my heart and soul, my grandchildren's, the love of my husband, yes.
Nora will have a hard time proving her belief in court. If there's some level of care, abuse and neglect are difficult to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. We went to Georgia's Emory University, one of the best medical schools in the country, to meet an expert on elder abuse, Dr. Tom Price. What are some of the signs of someone who suffered neglect?
Well, one signs you can see would be dehydration. You can see malnutrition. Pressure ulcers are one that people mostly tend to focus on as potentially a sign of neglect.
Dr. Price says that many of the symptoms of abuse could also be symptoms of the underlying disease that brought the person into the nursing home in the first place, but that abuse is more common than previously thought.
Agitated, confused. How many people suffer neglect in nursing homes, but they have no family, they have no one to speak for them, so when they die, they die. So most of these things that are occurring when a death occurs from neglect or harm occurs from neglect, it's just basically not being detected. And part of that is because the fact that there isn't really a good surveillance apparatus out there. And when there is, like we have a regulatory body in Georgia that does that, I've seen every law enforcement official I've worked with exhausted from the sheer number.
We have a veritable epidemic of abuse and neglect in nursing homes around this country. I've tried cases literally from Florida to California, and I can tell you that this is a pervasive problem across the country, and it's one that's growing.
Ken Connor's firm is representing Nora Manning in her suit against the nursing home for what they say is the wrongful death of her husband. Victims in some other states often don't have access to that kind of legal recourse. After intense lobbying, several states have capped the limit victims and their families can sue for in court.
You have to understand the way Washington really works, and if you want to understand that, you need to follow the money.
The nursing home industry is so darn powerful that they put a lot of pressure upon public officials. They've through campaign contributions.
Money is the megaphone. The lobbyists have the ear of the legislators.
Ombudsmen don't have that, and residents don't have that.
Lobbyists and lawmakers behind closed doors decide what the industry can live with and cap out the recoveries at that level and then impose that on the public. And the problem is when you immunize wrongdoers from the consequences of their neglect, they're more likely to repeat that neglect. Their neglect multiplies.
That lack of corporate accountability has left the Mayberry sisters angry. Their 96-year-old mother, Arietta, suffered from dementia. So they put her in what they thought was a good nursing home in Oklahoma City. When the daughters began to notice some of Arietta's personal items missing, they came up with a plan to do something about it.
He said, why don't we put that camera in the room? And, you know, because we could catch the theft. So we put the camera in the room and
Never
saw any thievery, saw the abuse.
They saw a nurse's aide forcing a latex glove into their mother's mouth. While police took action, the state health agency did nothing. In their frustration to make the case public, the Mayberrys turned to Wes Bledsoe. He's been fighting at the state level for the last 13 years to make elderly care homes accountable after he lost his own grandmother to what he says was gross neglect.
The family gave me the video to release to the media, and people are just outraged and stunned by it.
The horrible torture of an elderly woman in a nursing home caught on tape.
One of the women who committed the abuse.
And had it not been for that hidden camera, nobody would ever known. Mrs. Mayberry was a perfect silent victim.
The state health department initially claimed an investigation was unnecessary because the facility took prompt action. One of the nurses' aides went to jail.
I then met with the state commissioner of health and asked him about this. And he goes, well, the police investigated. What more do you want? This is like saying the plane crashed and the cops showed up and they did what they were supposed to do, and that's it. And the National Transportation Safety Board didn't have to show up and do anything because the cops were there. The regulatory agency is there to enforce regulations.
At the time of filming, the home had not been fined for the abuse Arietta Mayberry suffered.
Are you surprised that the state agencies haven't been more supportive?
Definitely. Yes. Oh, yes. They don't want it investigated. They don't want people to know how bad the nursing homes in the state of Oklahoma are.
If you're not watching them, if there's no oversight, they can just basically run wild. And that's exactly what's happening.
But I mean, what are you looking at? A couple of bad apples, a couple of bad nurses?
No, this is an industry-wide trend. You have mentally trained staff that's understaffed, under-equipped to deal with all the different needs that this population has.
It's easy to blame individual staff members as perpetrators of abuse. But how do management decisions affect staff quality?
And it's low pay. probably better benefits, better pay, and working in a fast food restaurant
Than a nursing home.
than a nursing home. Staffing is the linchpin to good care. But the owners are telling the administrators, keep those staffing low because we got to keep those profits high. They're making record Medicare revenues, record profits. The investors are calling, anytime a nursing home comes up for sale, it's a feeding frenzy, okay? It's a bull market. Why is it so good? Because it's guaranteed money.
For Brian Lee, his role as Florida's ombudsman for long-term care meant that he went up against nursing home corporations in the state.
If you're making multi-billion dollars and somebody's going to come in and disrupt it somehow by tracking down how you're getting paid, they're afraid of that. They hold that stuff.
He says he was forced to resign in 2011 after flagging problems with the corporate structures and reimbursement systems.
As a state ombudsman, I had this provision of the Affordable Care Act to ask for the nursing homes for this corporate information for more transparency. I made the request. Within days, the nursing home industry contacted the governor. Within days of that, okay, I was fired.
Many nursing homes engage with management corporations that make some of the decisions at facilities. We've come to one of them, Alta Corporation.
We are about to conduct a stakeout, which basically just means sitting outside someone's office, hoping they're coming to work today, hoping we're here before they get here, so that maybe we get a chance to ask them some questions on their way in.
Alta Corporation is a management group that has operated in nursing homes across the U.S., including Amara, the nursing home where Pat Manning was allegedly neglected. The company is also involved in a federal lawsuit for allegations of fraud in a home in Mississippi. The owner, Doug Mitleiter, refused requests from Faultlines for an interview.
I'm Josh Russian with Faultlines.
The only way to speak to him was to catch him on his way into his office.
Care in Augusta, Georgia. The widow of one of the patients says that her husband died from neglect. Can we sit down and have an interview with you about it?
Sometime, sure.
Sometime, yeah? Can we set the date or time now?
No.
Can you answer questions about it now? No. Do you have a response to the allegations in the lawsuit that the federal government's joined? It says that you ration care, including oxygen bottles? You don't know that there's a lawsuit with the federal government about one of your homes in Mississippi?
Mitleiter had no comment. None of the industry representatives that we contacted for an interview would speak to us either.
There's a corporate shell game that conceals who really is running the nursing home. They'll set up a company or an LLC to own the property. They'll set up another one that holds the license. They'll set up another one that manages the company. And the goal is to fragment the corporate structure in such a way that the lawyer can't figure out who's really responsible for the wrongdoing.
While corporations like Alta may continue to operate in some nursing homes, a growing trend is billion-dollar private equity firms operating hundreds of facilities across the country. It means that threads of responsibility are even harder to unravel for lawyers like Connor. One such private equity firm operates hundreds of facilities nationwide under the name Golden Living.
This is one of the largest nursing home companies in the U.S. And it's interesting, last year the FBI investigated Golden Living and came out with a report earlier this year that said that they were fraudulently charging the U.S. government for not only poor care, but some care that was actually harmful to their own patients.
The company paid a fine of more than $600,000 to settle the case involving 2 Atlanta facilities and signed a corporate integrity agreement to improve care. But it didn't have to admit liability.
The nursing home corporate structure, it's so convoluted, so complex that the nursing home owners are so protected from accountability because they have all these layers protecting them. Multiple layer upon layers of companies that protect the corporate decision makers.
Madeline Leffridge lived at a Golden Living Center in South Haven, Mississippi. She died at the age of 72 from complications due to Alzheimer's, according to her daughters Carmen Belton and Lisa Perkins. They believe that their mother unduly suffered at the center.
With that photo, the top one there, or top two.
Hospital records show that she was dehydrated and that she had developed a severe ulcer.
I just about fainted when I saw it. Her back was open, and it was
probably like 3 inches deep.
Yeah,
3 inches deep into her body, into her bottom. And they kept telling us she doesn't feel it. And I'm like, do you see the size of this sore? And you're telling me she's not in pain?
Right. So I made sure that once my mom went back to the nursing home that they were made aware of it, and and to start treating it, like they were in the hospital.
One thing is turning her, but you have to make sure she stays dry, that that area stayed dried and clean.
Feces.
Yeah, and we found out that wasn't happening. And the thing that I like,
Faultlines contacted Golden Living, but there was no response.
What did they say when you were like, I can't believe this?
they never said neglect.
They never said neglect. It was more, well, because she has diabetes, it's going to be more difficult for her body to heal, in which I can understand that. However, why did it even get to this point? That's the part that I never got an answer.
Like in the Manning case, it's hard to determine whether ulcers and other end-of-life symptoms were preventable or not. But what is known is that in a single year, an estimated $5.1 billion of taxpayer money went to poor nursing home care, according to the government's own reporting. The Office of Health and Human Services in Atlanta, Georgia, is leading the way in bringing more cases to court, spearheaded by Special Agent Derek Jackson.
Our purpose is to go in there and find out who's at fault. Not only are we going to lock you up, but we're also going to get the money back and repay the taxpayer for what they paid.
The Affordable Care Act, passed by Congress in 2010, made it easier for Jackson to detect and go after systematic abuse in nursing homes. He equates it to fraud. In a landmark case, Georgia nursing home operator George Hauser was criminally charged and convicted for submitting claims for care deemed so bad it was worthless.
They created case law to where we can start looking at these cases criminally, because now we have a roadmap of success. It certainly should put any corporation on edge. I mean, if I was a corporation in this line of work, that's certainly something I would be looking at to say, now I can be held liable for some of the care that I'm given.
But Jackson says that budget cuts in government spending mean that there isn't enough manpower to investigate the number of possible abuses in the system.
I wish we had 100 more agents out there that we could proactively go into every nursing home around the country and dive into their medical records and look at their billings, but we just don't have the resources, we don't have the ability to do that, and certainly if we had more agents, we could do that.
America is dealing with its growing elderly population with a corporate response, increasingly viewing people as a commodity. But when that happens, what it means to be human and valued can be lost along the way.
We are losing much of America's greatest generation because of abuse and neglect, and it really is scandalous.
If we don't have a loved one in a nursing home today, we will have a loved one in a nursing home at some point in our future.
Thomas Jefferson said the chief purpose of government is to protect life. We're not doing a very good job protecting the lives and dignity of people in nursing homes.